Hello everybody. Today I wanted to make a video about the downfall of free-to-play Anaxa. Now the reason I want to make this video is because I recently made an MOC, showcase of my free-to-play account clearing, because it's the 6th month in a row for me on this account where I have cleared with the exact same teams, right? Anoxa main DPS with a free-to-play team of Ruan May and RMC, and then Archer with my Tribby and Sunday, right? 6 months in a row, just absolute insanity. Though now that I think about it, I actually forgot Don Hung PT was 3.6, but hey, I got him free, right? I didn't have to spend anything. So yeah, I've been using Archer and Anoxa as my main DPSs for 6 months in a row, and it was an 8 cycle clear. Right now, I will say both Anoxa's and Archer's clears I could have done 1 cycle faster. However, literally all I did was insta log on, record first tries without trying to get better RNG, without trying to do anything else, and I was done, right? So even though I could have gotten a 6 total cycle clear instead of 8, I just didn't want to fucking bother, right? But I couldn't take the slander I was receiving in my comments saying that auto battle was worse than me. So I went out of my way to actually see how auto battle would do, and my Archer team took an extra 2, nearly 3 cycles, right? Like, it was down to the last action of Gallagher ult actually killing, or sorry, Don Hung PT Dragon, right? Last action on the action bar, that if not, it would have been a 7 cycle. Auto battle fucking blows with Archer. And then Anaxa, it actually did get the same cycle clear as me, right? So not gonna lie, maybe I do have a skill issue when it comes to playing Anaxa, but I know for a fact I didn't play my Archer that wrong, even though I could have played better, right? But this also has a bunch of people slandering E6 Anaxa in my comments, and I need to kind of explain to people, right? Explain why. To start us off, Anaxa is the least, vertical investment worth it unit, right? From all the Amphorius DPSs, this is the guy who gets the least of a jump. In fact, very rare, I think this might be the only case in the game where a character's E4 and E6 are their highest damage increases as compared to the rest of their Eidolons, because his E1 and E2 are instead focused on buffing people on his team, right? If we go over here, his E1 is a measly 16% defense reduction and a skill point recovery, and then the E2 is 20% res pen. It's only the E4 with this attack buff and the E6 that gives him an original damage dealt buff, where he actually starts getting something out of his vertical investment, right? So from all characters, all Amphorius DPSs at least, this guy has the worst vertical investment by far. However, on top of this, he is also the most reliant on horizontal investment, right? Because his early vertical investment is trash, they kind of compensated with it, at least in his main DPS team, with horizontal investment. He is one of the biggest, if not the biggest winner from having Cyrene on your account. And of course, Saridra was already best in slot for this guy, and having Cyrene alongside Saridra only further increases her value, since Cyrene buffing Saridra allows for more frequency of double skills, right? It adds 1 more stack of peerage every time a double skill is used up. So what this has led to happening, and what I need a lot of people to understand when they're like, saying, oh, E6 Anoxa, this game is going to the dumps, an E2 Phanon is probably stronger than an E6 Anoxa, right? And in turn, an Anoxa with Cyrene plus Saridra combo in a lot of cases can be competitive, if not stronger, than an E6 Anoxa, right? 2WOMF is now no longer a website that exists, very unfortunately. However, Anoxa's flaws were showing already without Cyrene in 3.6's MLC. Back then, Anoxa went from low cost zero cycling, like he had all the previous MOCs, to hitting a block because of the HP inflation, and Flame Reaver as well having a gimmick where his bounce damage kinda becomes negligible. And the exact same thing was going on with that break boss to shill Evernight, right? Cyrene helped him a shit ton in this because she increases his bounce attacks, which increases his ability to eat through the enemy's weakness break efficiency bar. Not just the damage buff, but also that. But before Cyrene, his cost to actually zero cycle it was bad. It was some of the worst out of any Amphorius DPS, despite the fact that before he was getting some of the best low cost zero cycles, right? Why was this? It's because Anaxa is better at taking advantage of gimmicks because of the fact that he spams so many attacks as compared to having a very good damage profile. So it's very easy for him to fall off if there's enough HP inflation, which is exactly what happened in 3.6. Of course, he ended up getting his savior being Cyrene. Because of Cyrene not only just being way better than any other option for this guy, but as mentioned earlier, increasing Ceridra value, Cyrene plus Ceridra with Anaxa alone can be competitive with investing all the way into his E6. In fact, once Cyrene was added and 2WOMP updated their runs with Cyrene Anaxa as compared to Cyrene-less Anaxa, you would see Cyrene Anaxas getting incredibly low cost zero cycles at the 2 to 3 cost mark. But then, if you looked at any Cyrene-less clears to achieve the same thing, people would be going up to 8 to 9 costs for Anaxa, and it's usually E6, right? So I hope people can kinda understand that E6 Anaxa is one of the worst investments possible. Now this may lead to one of my comments asking, because I've already seen this question of why did you go for E6 Anaxa? I went for E6 Anaxa because I was afraid he wouldn't receive another rerun after his last one, right? Because Anaxa is not a popular character. It is very likely that he ends up in a Rappa situation where his next second rerun doesn't pop up for an entire year. So with this possibility being in the air, I wanted to prioritize getting his E6 as quick as possible because I know Cyrene, who hasn't had a rerun yet, will obviously get one within a few patches in which I would be able to get her, right? So that is why I prioritized E6 Anaxa. It is something I wanted as this is an Anaxa account, and it made way more sense considering the way Hoyo usually sells banners, just to be safer than sorry. However, this guy is no longer the free-to-play GOAT that a lot of people praised him for in the olden days. People used to talk about Phanon and Anoxa in the same sentences about characters who could use any, free-to-play supports and clear endgame incredibly well. Nowadays, this really only applies to Phanon, and more so if you have Phanon's E2. When it comes to Anaxa, he is no different to a lot of these other DPSs that have a specific niche 1 or 2 supports that massively elevate their performance because of the introduction of Cyrene. This guy without Cyrene, in all honesty, is incredibly underwhelming. He is incredibly weak, incredibly undertuned, which is kinda sad. However, it just is what it is. After the big spikes of HP inflation that we got in late Amphorius patches, he simply started falling off very quick, and Cyrene was the only thing that could really bring him back, right? So, if you are an Anoxa main, please don't go into this guy's Eidolon investment. Prioritize getting Cyrene and even Cyrene E2 and Ceridra E1 and E2 Donhan PT. All of these levels of investment are better than getting this guy's Eidolons. Hope you have a great day. Hope you have a great night. Peace out.